Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now today we've got another walkthrough lined up for you that covers a code cracking question from the verbal reasoning paper of the Kent test. Before we get started, hit that subscribe button because we've got loads more content on its way. In the real test, when you're given a question type, you'll always be given an example at the start of the paper to show you how to answer it and the rules that you've got to follow. These example questions are always much easier than the real things you've got to answer later on. So just bear that in mind when we look at this first question, because we've written it to model an example question. It's quite easy. Now, just by taking a quick glance, you might already know what will come in that question mark without even being explained the rules. But let's go through it step by step anyway. You're given 3 sets of brackets. The first 2 sets of brackets have 2 words in them, and the last one has 1 word with a question mark, and it's your job to decide which word goes where that question mark is. So let's take a look at how to solve these questions. Now, you might look at this and think, this is super easy. All you've got to do for hats, to make hat, is to take off the S, and you'd be right. Then look at bank. Does that work again? If I take off the last letter, the K, am I left with the second word? Yes, I am. I'm left with ban. And then looking at carp, if I take off the last letter, the P, I'm left with car. And you'd be absolutely right if you put car as your answer and circled E. But this is a really simplistic way of looking at the question, and it won't always work just to take letters away. So I'm going to go back over this question quickly now and show you a method to get it right every single time. And this is what you've got to do. Looking back at hats, hats turns into hat somehow. Those letters in hat have come from the first word. Let's write down the number above it to show exactly where it came from. For example, the H. The H has come from the first letter in hats, so I'm going to write down a 1. The A has come from the second letter in hats, so I'm going to write down a 2, and the T has come from the third. 1, 2, 3. That's my code. Let's look at the second one. It's going to be the same. B is 1, A is 2, and N is the third letter of the first word. And of course, it works for car. Now you might think, what a waste of time. Why are you doing that when we've already spotted the pattern? Trust me, when we go to the next question, you'll see how helpful it is. Let's take a look at a slightly trickier question using our technique. In the first set of brackets, we've got edged, and we have to make the word edge out of that. Now, here's where our technique comes in handy. The E from edge, where did that come from in edged? Now you might be thinking, it comes from the first letter, obviously, put a 1. Well, it could come from the first letter, but there's a slight problem. It could have also come from the 4th letter. So that E, we have no idea where it actually came from. Well, that's not true. We have a kind of idea. So we can write down the number 1 and the number 4. It's either from 1 or 4. We don't know which one, but it's one of those two. Let's move on to the next letter, the D. Well, luckily the D can only come from one place, the second letter, so we put 2. Where could the G come from? Only one place, so we put 3. And then, we've got another E. We already know this has to come from either 1 or 4. So the code is 1, 4, 2, 3, and then 1 or 4 again. We don't know the answer to the question yet, and this is where the second bracket comes in super handy. So let's go over to the second bracket. We've got dairy and raid. There are no duplicated letters in dairy, so this one should give us a really clean code. Let's have a look. The R in raid must have come from the 4th letter. Yes, good. That's one of the 2 options, so I can get rid of the 1. We know that this code definitely starts with the 4th letter. The A comes from the second letter. Good, that matches up. So we've got 4, 2. The I must have come from the third. That matches, thankfully. And then finally, this D. And we're hoping this D comes from the first letter if it matches the first one. And it does. Dairy starts with a D. It can only come from there. The code is 4231. Now you've got this code, we can solve the answer. So Leeds, we're going to use the code 4231. So we need the 4th letter from Leeds, which is a D. The second letter, which is an E, the third letter, which is an A, and the first letter, which is an L. Deal. Look for the answer, it's B, circle it, and you've got the right answer. Well done. So as you become more confident using that technique, you've got to start looking for shortcuts. Remember, finding time in the Kent test is super important. The timer is so tight. And you may have noticed last time, I almost wasted the first 30 seconds, didn't I? Because I started building up a code with duplicate letters in the first bracket that actually didn't get me a definite answer. But as soon as I moved to the second bracket, I noticed there are no duplicate letters. So look at this example, the third one now on the board. It's the same situation. I could look at little and tile, but there are 2 T's, there are 2 L's. It's not going to give me a definite code. So before I start working out that one, you should just look at the second pair of brackets and think, are there any duplicated letters? The answer is no. Locked has 6 unique letters, so we should go straight to the second pair and save time. Let's build up the code quickly now because we know this should be an easy one. Cold, C must come from the third letter, put a 3 at the top. O must come from the second, put a 2. L must come from the first, put a 1, and D comes from the 6th letter. That's our code, 3216. We've got it, we didn't even need to look at the other bracket. We know it's 3216. Now, all you've got to do is apply it to garage. We want the third letter, second letter, first letter, 6th letter, and we should hopefully have that as an option. The third letter of garage is an R, the second letter of garage is an A, the first letter of garage is a G, and the 6th letter of garage is an E. We have a word, rage. Is it in our answers? Yes, it is. It's C. We put C, we move on. Okay, so we've gone through this question type and we've gone from super easy at the start to relatively tricky in the middle. And we're going to try something different this time. We're going to give you the challenge question. Now, in this one, there are duplicate letters in both sets of brackets. So you can't just skip to one and get the answer. Here's what you're going to have to do. Build up a code for the first set of bracket. If there's more than one option, put both numbers like I did earlier. Then go to the second set of brackets and do the same thing. If there are duplicate options, put both of them above the letter. Then you're going to have to cross-reference those 2 brackets. Now look, there's only 5 answers there. If you've created a word that doesn't make sense, well, that can't be the answer, can it? So you need to make sure that you look at both sets of brackets, build up as many clues as you can, use this technique, and please let us know in the comments because we will be super impressed if you get the right answer. There we have it, the perfect technique to solve those types of questions every single time. Remember, the test writers are trying to trick you, so take notes and just be wary of those double possibilities. There's only one right answer. Do hit that like button if you found this video useful. We're so excited to get out our content we've got lined up for you in the future. We'll see you next time.